Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here's a look at some of the stories we have lined up for you tonight. For the first time in Alberta history, all 51,000 teachers walk off the job demanding a better contract. Plus, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith tells Quebecers it's time to partner up on energy. And Edmonton Oiler fans breathe a sigh of relief as McDavid signs, but for much less than expected.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. As expected, Alberta teachers walked off the job Monday, making it a first in history that all 51,000 of them are striking at the same time. Last month, members of the Alberta Teachers Association overwhelmingly rejected the government's latest offer, which included a 12% pay raise over 4 years and a government promise to hire 3,000 more teachers to address class sizes. Teachers and their supporters gathered for a rally outside the legislature on Sunday, saying it's clear what they're looking for, despite Premier Danielle Smith's claim that the union is disconnected from what frontline educators want.
My mom is a teacher, or retired teacher, and I support her, and I've also worked in public education, and it's just severely underfunded, and the UCP is not doing a great job with it. And the kids deserve more, and so do the teachers and everyone else that works in schools.
It's pretty clear to me. I think it's something that we've been asking for many years, and not only looking for the raise, but looking for conditions in classrooms that actually allow us to do our job the way it's meant to be done.
On Saturday, Premier Smith said she was confused about why the teachers rejected the latest contract. This afternoon, the Alberta Teachers Association was notified that teachers will be locked out as of this Thursday, October the 9th. The ATA says that was expected, and despite the talks with the government are continuing. The shockwaves of the strike action have been felt throughout the province today, including here in Lethbridge, with students and parents expressing mixed emotions. A group of students have gathered outside Winston Churchill High School to rally support for their teachers and say they plan to remain there every day for as long as the strike may last. BCN's Landon Hickok has more on that story.
These students from Winston Churchill High School have opted to return to school this week, at least in front of their locked front doors, as they rally support for their teachers to onlooking passerbys by the school's entrance.
There's this thing called the bystander effect. So me and my brother, we organized this, Miles Angel. And so, yeah, we organized this because we didn't really see any action being taken. And it feels good supporting our teachers because they really need it in this time. Class sizes are huge. They aren't being treated well.
Nearly 750,000 students in Alberta are now locked outside of their classrooms and school-linked extracurricular activities. And many here in Lethbridge are vocally critical of the provincial government, unable to come up with a deal with their teachers.
I think it's really upsetting that we have to get to this point where Danielle Smith and the UCP are refusing to improve our class conditions, and we've had to resort to striking and causing more children to be behind and teachers to lose their paychecks for an unknowable amount of time.
It's upsetting that the teachers aren't getting paid enough to live. It's such a respectable position to be in society, to be a teacher, because you're teaching the next generation and they're not getting the respect or the money they deserve.
Frankly, that the government's not paying our teachers is just utterly stupid. There's no other words for it. It is baffling. So why not be here as long as we can to show our support towards our teachers?
Parents are now left with government support, which includes a payment program and a curriculum-centered at-home learning toolkit. The Alberta Teachers Union says they're happy that these have become available. Despite this, the union's executive director says there's confusion among parents regarding negotiations between what is wanted and what is offered for the teachers.
We are afraid that both sides have been using the conflict to score political points. Parents have already experienced school closures during the pandemic, and we saw the effects on kids from the pandemic, and especially on the most vulnerable kids. The effects of the pandemic school closures have resulted in a lot of the classroom complexities that teachers are raising now. We certainly hope that this strike abates quickly, that we can come to another agreement and see children back in school, because the longer it goes on, the worse the classroom conditions are going to get for students and teachers, which is what the strike is supposed to avoid.
ATA President Jason Schilling on Monday said that Alberta schools are in crisis and remains the lowest per student funded schools in the country. For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
Premier Smith had other items on her agenda Monday as she was talking about pipelines in an address to the Montreal Chamber of Commerce. While Alberta is drafting an application for a new oil pipeline to the BC coast, Smith says Quebec and Alberta should partner up on natural gas.
Quebec's energy grid is constrained, and it will take many years to develop an expansion of your hydroelectric resources. Meanwhile, you're sitting on a 200-year supply of natural gas, which can come to market quickly. And what I would love to see is for Quebec and Alberta to partner on developing that natural gas, be able to develop all of the supply chain associated with developing it, develop the export facilities to help our friends in Europe, and maybe at some future point even connect in Alberta's natural gas supply with Quebec's natural gas supply. Not only would that create a whole ream of new markets, which is, I think, the whole purpose of the exercise that we have, but I think it would also create as I joke, a new revenue stream for Quebec so they don't have to be as reliant on equalization.
And after her visit to Montreal, Smith traveled to Ottawa for a meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney prior to his trip Tuesday to Washington, D.C. Many Canadians will be watching to see what comes out of the talks between Carney and President Donald Trump. The leaders are expected to meet Tuesday in Washington to talk trade and tariffs. U.S. tariffs are currently hitting Canadian steel, aluminum, copper, autos, and softwood lumber, despite Carney's pledge to negotiate a deal. The planned meetings will come about a week after Trump repeated his 51st state rhetoric about Canada during a speech to American military leaders. It's unclear if those remarks will be discussed. And some very big news today in the world of business. Paramount, the parent company of CBS, bought a news and commentary website called The Free Press and installed its founder, Barry Weiss, as the editor-in-chief of CBS News, saying it believes that the country longs for news that is balanced and fact-based. Dave Bowder with the Associated Press has more on Barry Weiss.
She started the Free Press about 5 years ago after leaving as an opinion editor at the New York Times, complaining that some people there were angry at her because she didn't necessarily always reflect a liberal point of view there. She has crusaded against anti-woke culture at the Free Press. Her hiring at CBS has led some people to wonder if it's a friendly move in the direction of President Donald Trump. But CBS, in her hiring, says that they are trying to get at a more fair and balanced approach in its journalism and not always be enthralled to orthodoxies of both sides. Weiss began her job today at CBS News and wrote a memo to her new staff members saying she believes in these same core journalism philosophies that most of them have.
Across the pond, the political chaos in France continues. The country's new Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, resigned Monday, less than 24 hours after naming his government and after less than a month in office. President Emmanuel Macron has accepted his resignation. We get more from John Lester with the Associated Press.
Sébastien Lecornu submitted his resignation to President Emmanuel Macron on Monday morning, saying that his efforts to build political consensus behind his minority government had failed. Lecornu had named a new cabinet just the night before, but it lasted less than 14 hours. Gone with Lecornu. The crisis is unprecedented in France's modern republic, and it puts Macron in a terrible bind. Since the French leader dissolved Parliament's powerful lower house in June of 2024, triggering fresh legislative elections, his governments have had no stable majority and they've collapsed one after the other. Macron is now running out of options. With investors and markets rattled, the uncertainty is likely to hurt the French economy and France's efforts to rein in its soaring debts. As president, Macron can still function on the world stage, but his authority at home is ebbing away. Macron has said that he won't resign, but the last phase of his presidency, till 2027, could be very rocky indeed.
With the refusal to step down, Macron now finds himself cornered. Most observers expect him to call for parliamentary elections. Back here on Canadian soil, the impact of the Canada Post strike is being felt across the country, but it's not just individuals missing bill payments or regular mail. Businesses, institutions, and charitable organizations are also being affected. The Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation is facing challenges as it tries to plan its Christmas Tree Festival Gala on November 19th, 2025, and their annual year-end Lights of Hope campaign. This campaign raises critical funds for equipment, special projects, and programs that directly benefit patients and families at Chinook Regional Hospital and throughout southern Alberta. Crystal Elliott, CEO of the hospital, shares more about how the strike is affecting their work.
The mail strike has created real challenges for local charities like ours. This is the time of year when many people send their holiday or their year-end gifts by mail, and every day of delay affects how quickly donations can be put to work, helping people in our community. 40% of our seasonal donations normally come through the mail. With delivery interruptions, that means that vital funds for patient care and medical equipment can be delayed. We can't move forward without those donations. We're encouraging all of our supporters to connect directly with their favorite charities. We're fundraising for our Bringing Hearts Home cardiac campaign, for our MagSeed MagTrace breast cancer project, for some cancer surgical equipment, and all of those things are impacted by the postal strike and the delay in donations. So our Christmas Tree Festival, generally speaking, raises about $180,000 a year. We need to be able to sell our gala tickets. We had about an almost 15% reduction in donations due to the postal strike last year.
Anyone wishing to donate can go to crhfoundation.ca, call 403-388-6001, or stop by their office at Chinook Regional Hospital right there in the atrium. An 18-year-old man is facing charges after an incident last week forced Lethbridge police to lock down a number of schools. At about 11:15 last Friday morning, police responded to a call of a young man brandishing a knife in the cafeteria at Catholic Central High School along the 400 block of 18th Street South. He confronted two students, causing them to fear for their safety, then left the building, walking away on foot. As a precaution, Ecole St. Mary's Elementary, Lethbridge Collegiate Institute, Catholic Central High, and St. Francis Junior High schools were locked down. The suspect was arrested a short time later in the 2400 block of Parkside Drive South. 18-year-old Taj Crow Chief of Standoff, Alberta, is charged with mischief and possession of an offensive weapon dangerous to the public. He also faces 2 counts of assault with a weapon and 4 counts of failing to comply with a release order. He was scheduled to appear in court today. The city of Lethbridge is moving forward with plans to retire Dave Elton Skate Park. Blair Ricker, general manager of Parks and Cemeteries, says as Lethbridge's oldest skate park, it's no longer meeting the needs of residents in terms of safety, accessibility, or long-term sustainability.
The decision follows a thorough review of, the site's conditions, park usage, and future potential of the space. We understand that this closure may be disappointing for some, but be sure that we have 3 other fantastic skate parks located throughout the city of Lethbridge. The process will actually take place right away and will take approximately 1 month to complete. So the intent is to sort of revert the site to sort of a natural state and then planning for future use at a later date.
Residents can access the city's remaining 3 skate parks: Wade Galloway Skate Park in the south, Watermark Skate Park in the west, and Legacy Skate Park in the north. The cost to remove Dave Elton Skate Park is estimated to be over $200,000, which will be financed by life cycle budgets already in place for city infrastructure. This Wednesday, October 8th, voters can begin heading to the polls to cast their ballots for the 7 available positions of the Lethbridge Public School Division Board. In the meantime, Bridge City News continues introducing the candidates. Today, Cheryl Mahedon, who is running for a public school trustee, shares her experience and tells us what her greatest concern is regarding the current education system.
My biggest concern is the complexity and diversity of student needs. This, when you add on the problem of underfunding and large class sizes, you are not able to create a student-centered learning environment where students can prosper, and that is of deep concern to me because I believe in public education. I think it's worth fighting for. In order to be a school board trustee, there's a set of skills that you have to have. I think you need to be a collaborative person. You need to have strategic thinking competencies, curious approach to problems. And I believe that I possess all those things and I can amalgamate my education and experiences. So I've worked not only in academia as a professor and as a department chair or an administrator, but I've also worked in small business, in large business, and in not-for-profits. I feel that I will be able to use my leadership, my financial, and my complex problem-solving skills to add to the board policies that they develop.
Anyone over the age of 18 with Canadian citizenship and residency in Lethbridge who can provide a piece of ID showing their name and current address is eligible to exercise their right to vote. In Toronto, a unique hospital housing program is having positive results. The University Health Network and housing operator Fred Victor teamed up on a supportive housing model geared to the homeless population who visit hospitals frequently. This UHN hospital housing model has cut emergency department visits in half, along with an 80% drop in hospital stays.
So there are 51 tenants who live here. And really the idea about this was to shift our thinking around the homelessness crisis towards it also being a health crisis. And what we saw at UHN when we were really taking this on a number of years ago was to look at the data. And it was very clear that around 100 UHN patients made up over 4,500 emergency department visits. You can't really disconnect the two. The fact that there are thousands of people languishing in hospital beds because they don't have access to housing or supportive housing. And we've seen, again, the realities in a shelter system that's also at 105 or 110% capacity, where just today there will be 200 to 250 calls to the shelter system that'll be unanswered for people because there's no capacity.
We look at cost impacts on the system. If you're looking at that specifically, it's roughly $32,000 a year to support somebody who is going in and out of the hospital system. About $8,000 a month, if you will, on people going in and out of the shelter system. This is roughly $3,500 to $4,000. It is high support, but it's a much better environment, much better model of care and housing that marries both clinical support and housing support under one roof.
Every day was a struggle. I didn't eat, take care of myself. Often I couldn't. I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. That I hurt a lot of people, and I needed to feed my addiction, and I did that however I had to do it. I remember first coming to get to see the place, and I hadn't signed papers yet. I had to sign when I got here. And I remember sitting here and I couldn't believe it was mine. I was waiting for it to fall apart somehow, and it just, and it didn't. And I get up every day happy, and I'm thankful for the gift of being stabilized and having this place.
A spokesperson for the Dunn House says the 48 residents now on site accounted for more than 1,800 emergency department visits in the year before they moved in. Wow. And some very big NHL news today. Edmonton Oilers fans are breathing a sigh of relief as Connor McDavid announced on social media, quote, "Our journey here continues." McDavid has signed a 2-year contract extension at $12.5 million per season, which is well below a market value. The deal gives Oilers the salary cap room they need to build what fans hope will be a long-term Stanley Cup contender. McDavid did not address the media today, but is expected to chat with reporters tomorrow. Prime Minister Mark Carney even voiced his relief on X, briefly noting, quote, "Crisis averted," immediately following the announcement. The Oilers also signed an extension for defenseman Jake Wallman with a 7-year, $7 million average contract. Well, we reached a high of 15 degrees down here in Lethbridge today, with Brooks being the hot spot in the province this afternoon at a balmy 16.2 degrees. We'll be back up to 22 degrees again on Tuesday, and I will be right back with your forecast. Well, this is the perfect picture of October up near Hinton, Alberta. This sent in from our friend Linda, who's a loyal viewer. Looks like they got a little bit of rain over the weekend and it resulted in snowfall up on the mountains, but I love those yellow deciduous trees mixed in with the coniferous ones. Very lovely, Linda. Thank you very much for that photo. So it looks like we got mainly sunny skies all week down here in Lethbridge, and we're looking for that high of 22 degrees tomorrow, down to 16 again on Wednesday, 14 on Thursday. So that's, by the way, still seasonal, and then we're going to jump up above seasonal again for Friday, high of 23 degrees. And then Saturday, we're getting some moisture, so 30% chance of showers on Saturday, high of 11, and then temperature dropping like crazy. We're going into the minuses overnight and only up to 5 degrees on Sunday. And guess what? There's that F word again, 60% chance of flurries. I hate that word. Okay, average high for this time of year, 16 degrees. Average low, 2 degrees. 29 was the record high on this day back in 1980. And in 2000, Lethbridge experienced its coldest on record for this day, which was -10. Sun rose this morning at 7:39, sunset this evening at 6:59 p.m. So we are seeing, what is that, 11 hours and 20 minutes of daylight. There we go, I lost track of all my numbers. Okay, Victoria tomorrow looking like increasing clouds, 18 for the high in Victoria, 16 for the high in Vancouver, 20 to 40 winds in the Juan de Fuca Strait down there on the island and the Strait of Georgia up there by Vancouver. 21 tomorrow in Edmonton, which is lovely, sunny skies there, and then sunshine in Calgary with increasing clouds by the afternoon with a high of 22 degrees. Looking to the rest of the prairies, we are seeing a high of 18 degrees in Saskatoon tomorrow, high of 17 in Regina, mainly sunny skies in both of those cities, and then partly cloudy skies in Winnipeg with a high of only 10 degrees. Looking to the central part of the country, we're seeing quite a bit of moisture, so 10 to 20 millimeters of rain expected tomorrow in both Toronto and Ottawa. Looking at risk of thunderstorms in both of those cities. High of 22 in Ottawa, 21 in Toronto, 23 for the high in Montreal tomorrow. Expecting 5 millimeters of rain there with risk of afternoon thunderstorms. Getting over into the East Coast, the Maritimes, 27 for the high in Fredericton with a humidex of 31, so still very warm. It's summertime over here on the East Coast. Sunshine in Halifax, high 25. 25 also expected in Charlottetown. Much cooler by the water, by the way, more like 19, 20 degrees is what it feels like there. 20 for the high expected in St. John tomorrow with 20 to 40 kilometer per hour winds and sunshine. So there you have it. That is your forecast. Food delivery apps are broadening their horizons and promising to bring more than just food to your doorstep. The head of retail for Uber Eats in Canada says moving into retail deliveries seemed like a natural progression. Also saying delivery is not just a fad, it's a habit, and consumers are increasingly expecting fast deliveries from grocers and retail shops alike. A research firm report shows food deliveries make up about 6% of total traffic at restaurants. Canada's last major hockey stick factory is facing fresh headwinds from the trade war launched by the U.S. president. The Rouston Hockey Factory still has workers who are busy shaping, trimming, sanding, painting, and screen printing hockey sticks in Brantford, Ontario. The operation has origins that date back to the 1800s and has survived decades of trade globalization. Factory General Manager Bo Crawford says they are working to navigate the challenging trade situation, but they have to just roll with the punches, as the U.S. president can change his mind day to day and week to week. Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 60 to 30,531. The Dow was down 63 points to 46,694. The S&P 500 was up 24 to 6,740, and the Nasdaq was up 161 to 22,941. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 84 cents to 61.72 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 7 cents to 3.40 US. Gold was up 74.04 to 39.60.59 US an ounce, and silver was up 51 cents to 48.50 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.05 per bushel, barley is at $5.49. Canola is at $13.69, and corn is at $7.32 per bushel. Live cattle were up 85 cents to $231.87. Feeder cattle were up $5.22 to $362.40, and lean hogs were down 65 cents to $98.32. And the Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 71.70 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, Alberta teachers are officially on strike. While the dispute has centered on wages and working conditions, the Alberta Teachers Association says this strike is not just about teachers' pay. It's about the state of public education in Alberta. It says members are striking now so they won't have to be back in the same fight 5 or 10 years from now. U.S. President Donald Trump laid out a 20-point peace plan for the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. One of those points are the release of hostages who were taken in the October 7th attack 2 years ago. Will Hamas finally let these innocent civilians go? Lisa Daftari, editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, will join me to discuss this and other hot topic issues. That is coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews. U.S. President Donald Trump posted an urgent message on Truth Social minutes before the Hamas deadline on Sunday. He warned of massive bloodshed if Hamas failed to agree to the deal. He told them to move fast. To talk about this and more, of course, is our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, who joins me this morning from Los Angeles. Lisa, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you, Jeanette.
You as well, Lisa. Okay, Lisa, the deadline to agree to this proposal of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday has now lapsed. So have both sides responded? What's going on?
Yes, but, right, that is the main concern here. So Israel being on the same page as Donald Trump, the moderate Arab states as well pushing, Hamas being the last one to hold out, which is why Donald Trump gave them a deadline. By Sunday night, we need an answer from you. So they came out over the weekend and said, yes, but. And what does that mean? Well, there are 20 points to the plan that Trump put out there. The main ones being, of course, giving back the hostages right away within the first couple of days, and then to disarm and to dismantle Hamas. They will no longer be in power over the Palestinian people. Now, Hamas has come out and said, well, we agree with giving back the hostages, but not on the timeline that you guys say we should, which it is a moot point because it's been 2 years, right? They should have been given back in the first day. There's no reason for innocent civilians to be held hostage for 2 years like this. And then what does that show us? That they're not really serious about the deal. And then they don't agree to dismantling and disarming, which means well, there could be many, many more October 7th on repeat, which is what they have sworn to do. So this is problematic. Donald Trump has actually called them out on it, saying, we're not interested in you saying yes to play out the clock. We are interested in moving forward with the 20 points. So their feet will be held to the fire. As you could see with Donald Trump's message Sunday night, he's serious about this. He wants to move forward. He wants this off his list. This is something he campaigned on, is ending this war, bringing home the hostages, and it's taken way too long. So October 7th, the 2-year anniversary, is this week. It's, again, horrific to think that it was 2 years ago that this very, very bloody, violent attack by Hamas happened, which followed by, a very devastating war with very high casualties on both sides. And we're at the point where we need to end this war. Hamas needs to be out of power. They need to be disarmed and, of course, dismantled. So there's no more playing games, and that's what Donald Trump is saying. We're done with you playing games.
Speaking of playing games, was there any surprise that Hamas would try something like this? Have they made any plans to keep any part of their end of the bargain?
Yeah, that's the whole point. They want to appear, and again, it's worked, right? So I saw a New York Times headline right after they said yes, and again, yes, but, which I just laid out what they have said yes to it, where the New York Times and many other headlines came out and said Hamas agrees to the ceasefire while Donald Trump tells Israel to stop bombing. If you come from the moon, which most people do in terms of news consumption, what do you think that means? That means that, well, Hamas is on board, but it's Israel and the United States that's the problem, right? They're the ones who are pushing this genocide. And as I tweeted in the first hours of this deal, if you're truly facing a genocide, you wouldn't wait to jump on the opportunity for a ceasefire. So many of those who have pushed for ceasefire now, if you remember, that was the tagline in the first months of this war, with people in our Congress like Rashida Tlaib saying ceasefire now, and now she's saying, don't say yes to this deal. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either you're facing a ceasefire, a genocide, and you need this war to be over, so you say yes to a ceasefire, you say yes to dismantling your terrorist apparatus, or everything is peachy keen and you're not facing a genocide, and this is not the way it goes. So I'm not surprised, to answer your question. This is something that Hamas has done. They have pushed or kicked the can forward, particularly in the last few months, because they have had world support. They've used these different propaganda techniques to push, famine and hunger and devastation and the death toll. And of course, now saying, well, we're the ones that are saying yes to the ceasefire. So, why are we still, why are we still under scrutiny, or whatever it may be? They have a way of manipulating the world media, which wants to be manipulated. I'm not giving them a pass either. There's definitely a confirmation bias here. We're looking at, legacy media that wants to side with the Palestinians, that looks at them as the underdog. They don't look at them as the perpetrators of October 7th. They look at them as the victims of October 7th. And then, because you have this basically alignment, Hamas has taken advantage of that and just keeps making more and more and more demands. When we talk about the hostages, again, many of them innocent civilians that were taken, whether it's from a music festival or they were taken in their pajamas from their homes, young children who were beaten or brutally murdered with their mothers or in front of their mothers, put in ovens and raped and all of these horrific things. And there are many films right now that depict all of this on the anniversary of October 7th. Then you still have, many people in the world, as we saw over the weekend with all the different protests, that kind of reject this narrative and only look at the Palestinian narrative, which is inherently pro-Hamas. So they have taken advantage of this. They, obviously the Palestinian people are suffering because of their leadership. And again, if they do want to move forward, they will have to get on board with what the moderate Arab states are saying, what Donald Trump is saying, and of course, what Israel has agreed to so far.
Yeah, you mentioned the Palestinians having the world stage, or world support, rather. Somebody else who seems to have the world stage right now is activist Greta Thunberg, who made headlines again when she sent out a post on social media saying that she'd been taken captive by Israeli forces while she was trying to deliver aid into Gaza. So she says that she's being held in a jail cell infested by bed bugs and has complained of dehydration. So she's now being blasted by Israel's foreign ministry, calling her allegations blatant lies. So what details can you share here, Lisa?
I've never seen someone try to invade a foreign nation. I read in one report that she had no aid to deliver. I don't know what she's doing there besides for trying to make headlines. And again, the useful idiots around the world are following her headlines and following her and supporting her. And bravo, bravo to this child who never got enough attention and now is trying to make headlines by doing these asinine things. You are trespassing, you're invading, and then they put you in a jail cell. They make you watch some videos of October 7th to educate you instead of doing other things to you. I don't know what would happen to her if she landed in North Korea or China, for example. And then, or we should say, what would happen if she landed in Gaza? That's actually the proper juxtaposition here. Look, it's crazy. It's crazy that we're even paying attention to her. She's a child that just wants to grab world attention by doing what? What is it that she's actually accomplishing when there are so many aid trucks going into Gaza? What is it that you are doing besides for getting, headlines and trying to make the Israelis look like they're the aggressors, trying to make them look like they are holding you captive, that you've been abducted? It's none of that. And she was released that last time. She was actually asked to go home. I've never seen a situation where you've been abducted, but you've been asked to go home.
Please leave.
So, yeah, they don't want her there.
But she claims that she was part of a flotilla or a convoy, I guess, bringing the. So what happened to everybody else that was part of that?
I mean, look, they're not in the picture, but they're there. I mean, obviously, they don't have the fame that she has. Her face is equated to this kind of. She just puts her face and name on causes that are going to get her world attention. And she's just used to doing this. And it's really another propaganda technique that people use to get attention, and it's working. But it's sad, Jeanette. That's all I can tell you is as two people who have worked in news for a very long time, I think we can look at all these different headlines and think how sad it is that we really don't have the truth. And when you are trying to educate a population that's getting their talking points from TikTok or Instagram or pictures of this young woman who is, again, just trying to grab world attention, it takes away from the real story. Learn the history of the Middle East. Learn the history of this land. Learn about the different wars that have happened in Israel since the beginning of time. And I think that's what people need to do, is to educate themselves rather than looking at these 20-second snippets on TikTok or Instagram or wherever else they get their news from, and stop making up, kind of opinions based on that. Again, all weekend we saw protests going on all around, whether it was in London or in Barcelona, and I saw another one in Mexico City and in Italy, and it makes no sense. It boggles the mind because these are also places where they will eventually have migration issues. They will have radicalism issues. They already have had radicalism issues. In Manchester, England, we saw 2 individuals that were murdered outside of their synagogue on the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, which was Yom Kippur, the holiday of Yom Kippur this past week. And directly following that, you didn't have protests supporting those 2 who were worshipers who got killed outside of their house of worship. You saw protests in favor of Hamas and the Palestinians, which makes no sense. But as the famous quote goes, first they come for the Saturday people and then the Sunday people. So the people in the West, if they think that they are standing up for these people and this is the way, of the future, it's coming for us too. This is radicalism. And I'm not talking about advocating for the Palestinian people. If you truly want to advocate for the Palestinian people, you're going to say yes to the ceasefire. You're going to say no to Hamas. You're going to say no to violence. And you're going to want a better future for them and their children, free from indoctrination of terrorism. And that's the bottom line. No one can argue that. If you're on the streets waving your keffiyeh and saying, burn the infidel and, you need to kill the Zionists, I mean, who's being helped here? I mean, it's just crazy to think that this is where we're at, but obviously points to a much bigger global issue of anti-Semitism rather than anything going on in this war.
Yeah. Moving away from violence here and away from the Middle East, there's something happening over on Mount Everest that's making headlines. So we've got a massive and sudden blizzard over there, and it's trapped nearly 1,000 hikers, guides, local support staff in these remote camps. And reports are being released. They were released actually on Sunday, saying that at least 350 people have been rescued so far. Lisa, what else have you heard about this?
Yeah, I mean, this is ongoing. It's I know you guys don't want to hear about snow prematurely before you have to over there.
Oh boy.
But no, this is horrific, and this is really a biblical proportion. If you look at the footage of these, this snowfall, it's just horrific. And this is a time where there was a lot of people on vacation, a lot of people that were just there. As you know, it's a world site that is frequented by people around the world for its beautiful slopes and its beautiful sights and all, and now stuck and perhaps really vying for their lives while they wait for rescue crews to come through. I don't know if this is something that they have dealt with in the past before, or if it's something that has, again, of such a monstrosity size of that they can't really control or address at the moment. But we will wait to hear if there are any casualties or if they still are calling those people outstanding and still looking for those who are missing.
All right, Lisa, thank you. Of course, everyone's sending thoughts and prayers for those folks stuck up there on Mount Everest. How scary of a situation is that? But our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it as always.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The October 20th municipal elections are coming up very quickly, and we are continuing our interviews with the candidates battling it out for a seat on Lethbridge City Council. We're trying to give them all an opportunity to share their platform and their vision for our city. So joining us today is incumbent John Middleton Hope. He joins me right now in studio. John, welcome. Good to have you here at Bridge City News. Thanks for joining us today. So you're back. You're taking a run for your second term in council. So most viewers should know you then. Most of us know who you are. Some residents might even remember you as being the Chief of Police here in Lethbridge. That goes back a few years. So for any newcomers to Lethbridge, can you maybe share a bit of your background?
Sure. Well, I started my public service background, so I started in policing in 1977, and I've been a public servant in one capacity or another pretty much most of the time. So I spent 35 years in policing. I also did, between 1990 and 2021, I spent 31 years teaching at a variety of different universities, including Lethbridge College. And I had a consulting firm after I retired from policing that provided me with a contract with the United Nations, working on police reform in a variety of Balkan, Caucasus, and Central Asian countries. All were former communist, and many of them were still in conflict, so there were wars going on in these countries. I did that up until 2021 when I decided I saw what the state of the downtown of our city looked like and what we had been going through, and I thought I need to get back into the game. I need to get back into providing solutions, and that's why I ran for City Council on a platform of public safety, ensuring that we have accountability and access at the government level, and also ensuring that we manage our growth and development in the city, which is critical, working with businesses and industry to grow this city.
Incredible. Yeah. You have had quite a background. So now here you're back in Lethbridge, and you served for 4 years. Since you were the chief of police, so how long ago was that? It's going back.
From 2002 to 2006, and then I went to work for the UN after that.
Yeah. So obviously, crime is a big thing for you. As you mentioned, that was one of the reasons why you wanted to run for council 4 years ago. So getting back to that, Lethbridge does continue to wrestle with crime, obviously, as most cities do. There's addictions, there's homelessness, there's all kinds of challenges like that. So how do you see it? Are things better now? Are they worse? What needs to be done to make improvements? What are you thinking?
Well, we started to see very soon after I came, we started to see a ramp up of organized crime. And there is organized crime in this city, make no mistake about it. Other than the Hells Angels, which have been designated as an organized crime group, there are organized crime groups here that are trafficking in humans, that are trafficking in drugs. We are the first port of entry from the United States into Alberta. We get a lot of drugs that come in to Lethbridge from the United States, from Mexico. And so organized crime is a part of our way of life. We've seen how it has really created some very significant problems for us over time. When the fentanyl impact was first started in Lethbridge, it was around 2016, 2017. And we've seen it ramped up. We've seen the deaths. We've seen the impact on families. And that's not just the families that are affected because people are taking drugs. It's the families of our workers who have to clean up in the parks or have to clean up the streets. It's our firefighters. It's our paramedics. It's our police officers are all adversely impacted by what's been going on. So when I came to City Council, with I believed a mandate to work collaboratively with our community to wrestle some of these problems. So one of the things that we started off with very early was the Downtown Lawlessness Reduction Task Force, which the mayor and I co-sponsored. We got the police service, the fire service, we got businesses, we got administration involved in identifying what the problems were. And because they go much deeper than just simply, well, people are taking fentanyl and they're dying on the street. There was everything from graffiti to fires downtown. The arson rates had skyrocketed. So there was a whole series of things like that. Then there's the property crime and the violent crime that comes along with it. Understanding the makeup of addicts, it is solely focused on acquiring drugs. And the way in which they acquire drugs often is through committing crimes to get capital, cash usually, or property that they can exchange for drugs. So the Downtown Lawlessness Reduction Task Force has had a really profound impact. That along and an offshoot of that was the encampment strategy that we commenced in 2023. It is now a model that is being examined by cities like Edmonton and Calgary. And I've been in conversation with both their encampment strategy deployment teams in Calgary and Edmonton. They rank Lethbridge right up there with the two of them as being a really cooperative model. One of the first things that we did, which was necessary, because the previous council had asked the police service for $1 million to be removed from their, effectively their savings account. It's called a BAU account. They removed $1 million, which theoretically, technically, legally, they're not allowed to do, but they did. And $1 million had a significant impact on the police service. So they removed the $1 million. As soon as we got on council, I advocated very aggressively to get that $1 million returned. Then we immediately went into a budget cycle where I worked with other members of council and administration to authorize, because the police commission and the chief of police bring the budget forward, we worked with them to ensure that the police service received $16 million increase in their budget, their operating budget, over the course of the 4 years. What this has resulted in is the police services, for the first time in more than a decade, actually at their authorized strength. Now, which means that they're able to deploy people on the beat, they're able to deploy people in investigative capacities, which has had a significant impact on reducing the crime severity index, on increasing the safety, but those are only two pieces that go so far. We've worked with our community development group that are part of the city, and I have to give people talk about these shout outs. Well, I'll certainly send kudos to Carly Kleisinger, who is one of our directors. She has been absolutely great on working on things like Galt Gardens, for example. We went into Galt Gardens with her. I identified all of the problems that we were having in terms of managing it, crime prevention through environmental design. So the park has been redesigned, the park has been cleaned up. We have reduced the amount of biohazardous debris that was being brought out of the park. In 2023, before we started moving this strategy to clean up SAG, to clean up the park and so forth, we had 12 young people that were going in there every morning So between June and August of 2023, it cost us as a city about $300,000 in employee wages to clean up the park every morning. And we took out over 17,000 kilograms of biohazardous material out of the park. So that was a significant impactor. We had people that were dying in the park on a regular basis. We had a very high rate of mortality from fentanyl abuse. And so these were challenges that the police service were facing. These were challenges that our community was facing, and these are challenges that I wanted to be able to help from a governance perspective, from a provider of funding perspective to these organizations. So the encampment strategy is out of that. The graffiti abatement strategy is a result of that. What we've done with the Downtown Lawlessness Reduction Task Force and the funding that has been provided to the police service to be able to ramp up recruiting, hiring, training, and retention of employees, not just police officers, but civilian staff as well, has been absolutely critical.
Yeah, it sounds like you went in with a mission. You accomplished a lot, obviously, over the 4 years. What's your mission for this term? What are you hoping to accomplish now in the future?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. So community safety is still really important, and I think, to be blunt, I think everybody has a right under the Constitution Act to live in a safe and secure community. And so how do we go about doing that? From a governance perspective, it's providing the police service, the fire and EMS with the tools and the support to be able to do those, to complete those initiatives. So community safety is really important. Managing our growth. We are going through a period of time, not unlike the province, which has had about 450,000 people move here, either immigrants or migrants, come here predominantly from Ontario and British Columbia to set up businesses, to buy homes. They're buying into the Alberta advantage, but that creates enormous pressures on healthcare, on building, being able to house people, on education. So every occupation that you can think of has been stressed by the 450,000 plus people that have moved here over the last few years. So managing our growth in Lethbridge, we've been averaging about 4% a year increase. So when we came to council, we were just cresting 100,000. We're at about 116,452 as of today. The 2 is just an add-on. But that's where we're at. We anticipate that if we increase by another 4% over the course of this year to April of 2026, we'll hit the 120,000 mark. About 50% of that, 50% of the physical growth and 50% of the personnel growth are on the west side of the city. So we need to develop, and I'm a strong advocate of developing town centers, not 15-minute cities. Don't get that confused. We need town centers. So we've got one in the south. We started one in the north where the Walmart is situated. Unfortunately, that really has not amounted to a great deal. We've got businesses there that are vacant. On the west side, however, that's really ramping up, and we have worked very collaboratively with the Builders Association of Lethbridge, and you're going to see some big projects coming on stream. In addition to the temple that's going in over there, it's attracting doctors, it's attracting optometrists. They're doctors too, but it's attracting doctors and dentists and optometrists. It's attracting other businesses. Green Acres Foundation has a location that they're going to be building. There's a hotel planned for over there. There's some. I want a lumber yard over there, and so I'm working with.
It's ridiculous how fast the west side is just booming.
Right.
With that said,
and we're cresting almost 50,000 over there now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Would you support a third bridge?
No. You know, it's so 60% in the last plebiscite were in favor of a third bridge. Unfortunately, I don't think we as a city have done a good enough job in explaining what the costs are associated with a third bridge. We anticipate that, and just some numbers for you, it'd be about $275 million. But then we've got exchanges that have to get people onto the bridge and off the bridge. People have talked about a toll. Well, let's look at actually who would be using the bridge. So you'd look at the communities of Watermark, you'd look at the communities of Sunridge, Mountain Heights, Riverstone, the canyons, and Paradise Canyon. The projected population is 10,000 for that group of people.
Yeah, or anybody working at the U of L who maybe works on the south side.
Well, who perhaps lives south of the city, because if the highway or the bridge is put down in Popson Park, that comes out at the airport, and that's one of a number of locations that they're looking at a possibility of putting it across. However, I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to be going across there unless I'm going to Home Depot. Well, if you build a Home Depot or a Canadian Tire store or one of the other building stores on the west side, I'm not going to use it. So the population is not going to be 50,000 people using that bridge over the next 25 years. It's going to be substantially less than that. So we really need to look at that. But more importantly than whether or not it's a good idea to have a bridge or whether we build town centers on the west side is how do we fund it? How do we pay for this, and where do we get the money from? So theoretically, if we had the provincial government as a partner and we had the federal government as a partner, it's still close to $300 million. That means $100 million of taxpayers' dollars would have to go into that. We have, quite candidly, we have bigger fish to fry. We have a water and a wastewater treatment facility that needs substantial upgrades. Council has a responsibility to sift through all the asks, all the wants, and determine what the needs are, and then look at funding. Because nobody wants to pay more taxes. And at the end of the day, taxes are one of the ways in which we are able to generate capital to provide the services that people demand in this city. And we have champagne taste on a beer budget. That's a reality, and we as council have some very difficult decisions to make. We've done that in the last 4 years, and whoever is on council in the next 4 years will also have some very, very difficult decisions to make.
John, we're out of time. Thanks so much for dropping by.
You didn't get through half of this stuff.
I didn't. I know. You've got such a fascinating background. It just the time just flew.
Well, thank you.
But thanks for joining us today. Good luck to you. John Middleton Hope is a candidate for Lethbridge City Council. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.